The rain had been falling since morning. Not the dramatic kind you see in movies, just a cold, steady drizzle that soaks into your bones and refuses to leave. The kind that makes the world feel heavier than it already is. Ethan Walker tightened his jacket as he stepped out of the small grocery store, a thin plastic bag in his hand. Inside were the cheapest things he could find: a loaf of bread, a can of soup, and a box of instant noodles. That was dinner. Again, he glanced at the receipt before folding it carefully and sliding it into his pocket. Old habit, one he'd picked up when every dollar started to matter. $18.42 remaining. That number echoed in his mind like a warning bell. Ethan was 36 years old, a single father, and tonight, those $18 were all he had left to get through the week. 2 years earlier, his life had looked very different. He had a steady job as a warehouse supervisor in Ohio. Long hours, sure, but paid the bills. His wife, Laura, worked part-time at a local clinic. Their daughter, Mia, was 8 years old then, full of laughter, scraped knees, and endless questions about the world. And then one night, everything broke. A drunk driver, a red light ignored, a phone call at 2:14 a.m. Laura never made it home. From that moment on, Ethan's life became a series of quiet battles no one else could see. People told him the same things over and over. You're so strong. Your daughter needs you. Time heals everything. But strength, Ethan learned, wasn't something you felt. It was something you pretended to have when your child was watching. Mia was 10 now. She didn't complain when dinner was simple. She didn't ask why the electricity flickered sometimes. She didn't mention that her shoes were getting tight. And that hurt more than if she had. Because children aren't supposed to understand sacrifice that early. As Ethan walked toward the bus stop, he noticed a man sitting near the entrance of the grocery store. Late 40s, maybe early 50s. Worn-out jacket. Shoes that had seen better decades. The man wasn't begging loudly. No sign. No dramatic story. He just sat there, hands clasped, eyes tired, staring at nothing. Ethan slowed his steps. Don't look, his mind whispered. You can't help anyone right now. But then the man looked up. Their eyes met. And in that moment, Ethan didn't see a stranger. He saw himself. 2 years ago, on nights when grief felt heavier than hunger, Ethan's hand slipped into his pocket. His fingers brushed against the folded receipt. $18.42. That money meant gas for the bus, milk for Mia, maybe lunch tomorrow. Logic screamed at him to walk away. But something else spoke louder. A memory. Laura's voice, years ago, smiling as she dropped spare change into a donation jar. If you ever have the chance to help someone, don't overthink it. Ethan swallowed hard. He looked at the man again. And then, almost without deciding, he reached into his wallet. He pulled out the cash. All of it. He knelt slightly and held it out. Hey, Ethan said quietly. I don't have much, but maybe this helps. The man's eyes widened. No, sir, I can't. It's okay. Ethan interrupted, forcing a small smile. Really? The stranger's hands trembled as he took the money. Why? The man asked softly. You don't even know me. Ethan thought of Mia, of empty kitchens, of nights that felt endless. Because I do, he replied. The man stood up slowly. Thank you, he said, his voice thick with emotion. You have no idea what this means. Ethan nodded, turned away, and walked toward the bus stop, his chest tight, his wallet empty. He didn't know it yet, but that small act of kindness had just set something massive into motion. Ethan woke up to a sound that didn't belong in his neighborhood. It wasn't loud exactly, just heavy. A low, steady vibration, like engines running without urgency. At first, he thought he was dreaming. Then he heard it again. Mia stirred beside him on the small couch they shared. Their bedroom heater had broken weeks ago, so winter nights meant piling blankets together in the living room. Daddy, she murmured, half asleep. What's that noise? Ethan sat up slowly. I don't know, sweetheart, he said, already pulling on his jacket. The sound was coming from outside. Ethan opened the front door and froze. Parked along the narrow street in front of his small house were 5 large black SUVs. Glossy, clean, out of place. They looked like something from a movie or a government convoy. For a brief, terrifying second, Ethan's mind raced through every worst-case scenario imaginable. Did I forget a bill? Is this about taxes? Did something happen at work? His heart started pounding. Mia peeked around his leg. Are we in trouble? She whispered. Ethan swallowed. No, he said gently. Of course not. But he wasn't sure he believed himself. The doors of the SUVs opened almost in unison. Men stepped out, well-dressed, calm professional. No weapons visible. No flashing lights. No shouting. Still, Ethan's palms grew sweaty. One man walked forward. Tall. Gray hair. Expensive coat. Mr. Ethan Walker? He asked politely. Ethan nodded. Yes, that's me. The man extended his hand. My name is Daniel Reed. I apologize for the surprise. We won't take much of your time. Ethan hesitated before shaking his hand. What is this about? He asked. Daniel glanced briefly toward Mia. May we speak inside? He asked softly. It's about something you did yesterday. Ethan's chest tightened. Yesterday? He searched his mind. The grocery store. The bus ride. Dinner with Mia. The stranger. His stomach dropped. Oh no. He stepped slightly in front of his daughter, protective instinct kicking in. I didn't do anything wrong, Ethan said carefully. Daniel smiled just a little. No, he replied. You did something very right. Inside the house, the men remained standing. Respectful. Observant. Daniel took a breath. The man you helped yesterday, he began. His name is Samuel Carter. Ethan's heart skipped. He wasn't a homeless man, Daniel continued. Not exactly. Ethan frowned. Then who was he? Daniel looked around the modest living room. The thin carpet, the second-hand furniture, the faint smell of soup from the night before. He's my older brother, Daniel said quietly. Ethan's mind struggled to catch up. Your brother? He repeated. Daniel nodded. Samuel disappeared from our family nearly 20 years ago. Pride. Bad decisions. Addiction. He walked away, and we lost him. Ethan listened, stunned. Yesterday, Daniel continued, he called me for the first time in years, crying, saying a stranger had reminded him what dignity felt like. Daniel reached into his coat and pulled out a small folded paper. He told me exactly what you said to him, Daniel added. I don't have much, but maybe this helps. Ethan felt a lump form in his throat. Daniel looked him straight in the eyes. That $18 didn't just buy him food, he said. It stopped him from doing something irreversible last night. The room went silent. Mia squeezed Ethan's hand. You helped him, she whispered. Ethan blinked rapidly. I didn't know, he said softly. I couldn't walk away. Daniel nodded slowly. And that's why we're here. One of the men placed a thick envelope on the table. Ethan's eyes widened. I can't take charity, he said immediately. I didn't help him for money. Daniel raised a hand. This isn't charity, he said. It's gratitude. Ethan shook his head. No, please, Daniel interrupted gently. Let us help you the way you helped him. Ethan looked down at the envelope, then at Mia. His voice trembled. I just want my daughter to be okay. Daniel's expression softened. Then we want the same thing, he replied. Daniel stood up. This isn't the end of our visit, he said. It's the beginning. Ethan's confusion deepened. What do you mean? Daniel paused at the door. Tomorrow, he said, I'd like to offer you something. Not money. He smiled. An opportunity. The SUVs drove away quietly, leaving behind a house that felt different somehow. Lighter, hopeful, but also uncertain. That night, Ethan barely slept. The house was quiet, but his mind wasn't. Mia breathed softly beside him, her small chest rising and falling under the blanket. Ethan lay there staring at the ceiling, replaying Daniel's words over and over. An opportunity. The word sounded hopeful and dangerous at the same time. Ethan had learned the hard way that hope, when misunderstood, could hurt more than despair. Sunlight slipped through the cracked blinds the next morning. Mia sat at the small table, swinging her legs as she ate cereal. Daddy, she said casually, are those men coming back? Ethan hesitated. I don't know, he admitted. Maybe. She looked up at him. They didn't seem scary, she said. Just serious. Ethan smiled faintly. That's a good way to put it. A knock came at the door. His heart skipped. Daniel stood outside alone this time. No es versus. No entouraje. Just a man in a simple coat, holding a coffee in one hand and a folder in the other. "Good morning," Daniel said warmly. "I hope this isn't a bad time." Ethan shook his head and stepped aside. Inside, Daniel placed the folder on the table, but didn't open it right away. "I want to be very clear," he began. "What I'm about to offer you comes with no obligation." Ethan folded his arms. "I don't want a handout," he said quietly. Daniel nodded. "I expected that." He opened the folder. "I run a logistics company," Daniel explained. "Warehousing, transport, supply chains. We operate across multiple states." Ethan's eyes lifted slightly. "I started it from nothing," Daniel continued. "And I recognize people who know what responsibility feels like." Daniel slid a paper toward him. "It's a supervisory position," he said. "Full-time, benefits, health insurance, a stable salary." Ethan stared at the paper. The numbers felt unreal. This wasn't just better than his current situation. This was a way out. Ethan pushed the paper back. "I can't," he said. Daniel didn't look surprised. "Why?" he asked. Ethan swallowed. "Because if this goes wrong," he said, "my daughter pays the price. I can't afford another failure." Daniel leaned back in his chair. "You think I don't understand that fear?" he asked softly. Ethan looked up. "My brother disappeared because he was afraid of disappointing us," Daniel said. "And we lost him for 20 years. The room fell silent. Mia, who had been quietly coloring at the table, looked up. "Daddy," she said. Ethan turned to her. "You always tell me," she continued, "that being brave doesn't mean not being scared." Ethan felt his throat tighten. She smiled shyly. "It means doing the right thing anyway." Daniel watched silently. Ethan took a deep breath. Daniel stood up. "There is one condition," he said. Ethan stiffened. Daniel smiled slightly. "You don't start at the top," he continued. "You start like everyone else. You earn it." Ethan nodded slowly. "That's all I've ever done," he replied. Daniel extended his hand. "Then welcome aboard." Ethan shook it, this time without hesitation. Daniel left. Ethan sat at the table holding the folder. For the first time in years, the future didn't feel like a wall. It felt like a road. Long, uncertain, but open. Mia hugged him. "Does this mean we're okay?" she asked. Ethan kissed the top of her head. "It means," he said softly, "we're trying." Ethan's first day at the new job began before sunrise. The warehouse was massive, steel walls, endless rows of shelves, machines humming like a living thing. The air smelled of cardboard, oil, and hard work. This wasn't the kind of place where favors mattered. This was the kind of place that tested you. Ethan tightened his gloves and stepped onto the floor. Starting from the bottom, again. Despite the title on paper, Ethan worked like everyone else. He lifted boxes, checked inventory, learned new systems. Some workers noticed him. "New guy," one of them muttered. Another laughed. "Probably here because he knows someone." Ethan didn't respond. He had learned long ago that proving yourself was louder than explaining yourself. The hours were brutal. By the time Ethan got home, his back ached and his hands burned. Mia waited for him at the door every night. "Did you eat?" she'd ask. He'd smile. "Of course." Sometimes that wasn't true. Bills still waited. Rent still loomed. And his first paycheck was weeks away. Hope hadn't erased reality. It had only delayed it. 2 weeks in, it happened. A shipment mislabeling. Wrong routing. Thousands of dollars delayed. The warehouse buzzed with tension. Supervisors argued. Phones hung. Emails flew. Ethan stared at the screen. This was my responsibility. Daniel stood across the room, calm but watchful. Ethan's chest tightened. He had one chance to explain. Ethan walked into Daniel's office, hands trembling. "It was my mistake," he said before Daniel could speak. "I didn't double-check the routing code." Daniel studied him. "No anger. No disappointment. Just silence." Ethan braced himself. "I understand if you have to let me go," Ethan added. "I just wanted you to hear it from me." Daniel leaned back slowly. "Do you know how rare that is?" he asked. Ethan blinked. "People don't usually take responsibility," Daniel continued. "They hide. They blame." Daniel stood. "Fix it." Ethan exhaled sharply. "Yes, sir." Ethan worked through the night. Calls. Corrections. Coordination. He missed dinner. Missed sleep. But he didn't miss the solution. By morning, the shipment was back on track. Delayed, but saved. Daniel shook his hand. "You earned your place here," he said. Ethan nodded, exhausted. That evening, Ethan's phone rang. Unknown number. "This is the school," a voice said calmly. "Your daughter collapsed during recess." Ethan's world stopped. At the hospital, Ethan sat frozen. Mia lay on the bed, pale but awake. "Daddy," she whispered. "I am okay." The doctor explained gently. "She hasn't been eating enough," he said. "Stress can do that to children." Ethan closed his eyes. Guilt hit harder than any hardship before. Daniel arrived at the hospital quietly. "I heard," he said. Ethan stood. "I should have noticed," he said brokenly. "I was so focused on fixing our future. I forgot to protect the present." Daniel placed a hand on his shoulder. "Then remember this moment," he said. "Success means nothing if you lose what you're building it for." Ethan nodded slowly. Tears fell freely. The hospital room was quiet except for the soft rhythm of a heart monitor. Ethan sat beside Mia's bed, holding her small hand like it was the most fragile thing in the world. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I should have been paying more attention." Mia squeezed his fingers weakly. "You were trying," she said. "That counts." Those words hit harder than any criticism ever could. That night, Ethan didn't sleep. He watched the city lights flicker through the hospital window and made a promise to himself. No job, no future plan would ever matter more than this. When morning came, Daniel returned, this time alone, without the confidence of a businessman. "Just a brother. Just a man that I never told you why Samuel disappearing broke me," Daniel said quietly. Ethan looked up. "He was always the kind one," Daniel continued. "I was the ambitious one, the driven one." Daniel's voice dropped. "When he started struggling, I told him to get it together. I thought success could fix everything." He paused. "I was wrong." Ethan listened, understanding without words. "When you helped him," Daniel said, "you did what I didn't." Daniel placed a new folder on the table. "This time," he said, "the offer comes with balance. Inside, flexible hours, remote oversight days, medical coverage effective immediately. I won't build a company that breaks families," Daniel said firmly. Ethan's eyes filled. "This isn't charity," Daniel added. "This is learning." Ethan accepted, but on his terms. "I'll work hard," he said, "but I'll never miss being there for her." Daniel nodded. "That's the right answer. Healing begins at home." Weeks passed. Mia grew stronger. Their dinners became warmer, not richer, but fuller. Ethan learned something powerful. Stability isn't about money. It's about being there. One evening, Ethan's phone rang. "Hello," he answered. "This is Samuel," a voice said. "I just wanted to thank you again." Ethan smiled. "You don't owe me anything," he said. "Ido," someone replied. "You reminded me I still mattered." They hung up in silence. That night, Ethan tucked Mia in a bed. "Daddy," she said sleepily, "are we going to be okay?" Ethan smiled. "We already are." Spring arrived quietly. Not with celebration, but with small changes, longer days, warmer air, and a feeling that life was finally breathing again. Ethan noticed it in the simplest moments. Mia laughing at the kitchen table. Sunlight filling the house instead of shadows. A fridge that wasn't full, but no longer empty. They weren't rich, but they were safe. And that was everything. The warehouse felt different now. Ethan still worked hard, but now he worked with purpose. People respected him, not because of who he knew, but because of how he showed up. One afternoon, Daniel walked beside him through the facility. "You built something solid here," Daniel said. Ethan shook his head. "We built it," he replied. Daniel smiled. That night, Ethan drove home without rushing. Because for the first time in years, nothing was chasing him. On a quiet Saturday morning, Ethan and Mia stood outside a small community center. A modest sign read, "Second Start Outreach." Inside, Samuel handed out meals, his smile genuine, his posture steady. He looked whole. When he saw Ethan, his eyes filled. "I'm 6 months sober," Samuel said. "And helping here keeps me grounded." Ethan nodded. "I'm proud of you." Samuel hesitated. "I never told you this," he said. "That night you gave me that money, I was ready to give up." Ethan closed his eyes. "But you reminded me," Samuel continued, "that kindness doesn't need permission." As they left, Mia tugged Ethan's sleeve. "Daddy," she said, pointing to a man sitting near the entrance. He looks cold. Ethan followed her gaze. The man sat quietly, eyes tired. Familia. Ethan reached into his pocket. This time, there was more than $18. But he didn't give more. He gave exactly $18. Mia watched closely. Why that amount, she asked. Ethan smiled. Because sometimes, he said, the value isn't in how much you give. He knelt beside her. It's in why you give. That night, Ethan wrote something in a small notebook he kept tucked away. You don't need abundance to change a life. You just need courage at the right moment. He closed the book. Mia hugged him. Daddy, she said softly, I want to help people when I grow up. Ethan kissed her forehead. You already are. Life didn't become perfect. There were still hard days, still worries, still moments of doubt. But now, they had something stronger than fear. They had purpose, and it all started with a man who had nothing left, except kindness.